Good morning, my friends. Good morning. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMAOddsbreaker. We are here for UFC 278 where we have 12 fights. A rematch. Leon Edwards taking on Kamaru Usman at 170 pounds. 12 fights, 4 of which are aligned inside the distance. I think there are a few spots here that have some, what some may call value, that is in the eye of the beholder, as many of you know. So first fight of the night, let's get cracking with some flyweight action where we have Victor Altamirano coming in as a minus 170 betting favorite, taking on Daniel Da Silva, who has seen better days when you're getting submitted by Francisco Figueiredo, who we'll be talking about later on this card. Let me grab a swig of this coffee. Good morning. Daniel Da Silva, he's a fighter who will force the finish, and that's indicative in this line. It's baked into the fight doesn't go the distance line, which is sitting at minus 240. Victor Altamirano, not impressed with his overall skill set. Fight against Carlos Hernandez, you can see the man lacks physical strength inside of the octagon. And one thing about Daniel Da Silva, he's a wild man out there. Fights a lot like, I believe he's from the same camp as Cowboy Oliveira. Da Silva will come at you quick. In the Molina fight, will start strong, try to force a finish. And I think that a finish is live here. I'll be picking the underdog, Daniel Da Silva, to surprise a lot of folks and get back into the winner's circle here. I'll be picking Daniel Da Silva. Next fight, where we have Perrin-Aoriqileng coming in as a minus 135 betting favorite. The Mongolian Murderer, a fighter who has 32 professional bouts under his record here, under his belt, taking on Jay Perrin, who the line is closing, plus 105 underdog here. You watch the tape on Perrin. His fight against Mario Bautista left a lot to be desired, but you also have to consider that he took that bout on short notice, and he was mauled in a sense by Mario Bautista. But the guy is a grinder. Watch his previous fights. I remember doing tape study for his bout against Bautista, and you could see the guy's a grinder. He's an intelligent fighter who will try to use a cerebral approach to navigate his way to victory. I like Perrin in this spot as an underdog, but I'm not thrilled about the price that's currently available. One thing about the Mongolian Murderer is he will bring the fight to you. He will not go away. And his lateral movement could be, or his lack of lateral movement could be an issue here. I know this fight is in the larger cage, but I'm expecting Perrin to come in here and grind out a decision. So give me Jay Perrin in that spot. Now, we're talking about another flyweight matchup here at 125 pounds, where we have Francisco Figueiredo coming in as a plus 345 underdog, taking on Amir Albazi. Albazi minus 495 at the betting window. Francisco Figueiredo. Can we? Gosh, it's amazing. This is another one of those low-level flyweight fights that is a concern of mine, to see these matchups end up on the UFC roster when we just saw Shane Burgos leave. Wish him the best in PFL. Sad to see Shane Burgos go. Quality competitor, left it all on the line every time out. But let's get back to this matchup. Amir Albazi doesn't compete very often, but when he does, he's got some slick jiu-jitsu, and his submissions are something to look out for here. Figueiredo, wiry fighter, larger fighter here, but he has been prone to making some bonehead mistakes inside of the octagon. And Figueiredo, I could see that happening again here, especially inside of the larger octagon. I think he's going to get taken down. He's going to get transitioned upon, and I see Albazi winning via submission. Look out for that line, that Albazi submission line. So the pick is going to be Amir Albazi to win. Now, this is a spot here. AJ Fletcher taking on Ange-Loosa, who originally, when I began watching the tape and you watched the Matt Semelsberger fight, I was thinking I was going to be all over AJ Fletcher here. He is reminds me of an armadillo, AJ Fletcher. Very short fighter who doesn't possess a credentialed wrestling background, but can hang with folks, and also reminds me a lot of Sean Shirk out there, his body type. And there's a massive reach advantage here for Loosa. I believe it's 7 or so inches. Interesting situation we have unfolding. So you watch the tape back, and Fletcher is a dynamo on the feet, but he's going to have to crowd Loosa to be effective. I watched the pre-fight interviews. Fletcher thinks that he has seen some defensive tendencies that are vulnerabilities for Ange-Loosa. I've got to see this before laying action down on this bout. AJ Fletcher will be my pick. Ange-Loosa, when he fought Jack on the Contender Series, looked like he's fairly well-rounded. Fights out of a solid camp in Florida. Is an athletic specimen. Can fight deep. And that's an issue here I have for Fletcher. You saw it came out guns blazing, dominant grappling for the first round, and then kind of fell off of a cliff. And Semelsberger, who isn't a phenomenal grappler, was able to come back and work his way into that fight and earn a victory. So my pick here is going to be AJ Fletcher. I think that he has some intangibles that Loosa may not be ready for. The fight-ending powerful strikes. The also early wrestling should put him ahead on the scorecards. But keep an eye out for Fletcher potentially gassing here in the second round. So give me AJ Fletcher to win. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Good morning, Nazir. Let's see. You say Luke getting injured. Interesting. Moyes, good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Sergio, good morning, sir. Okay, yes, that is a possibility. I could see Shane Burgos doing fairly well in PFL. Problem is, defensively, he has some liabilities on the feet, and he could potentially get caught at some point, but or just take too much damage. But I'm a huge fan of Shane Burgos, and I hope he walks home with that $1 million. Next up, we've got Sean Woodson. Look at this line, minus 370, massive favorite. This fight takes place at 145 pounds, taking on Luis Saldana. Saldana fights out of Fight Ready, typically comes out strong in the first round, plus 270 underdog here, which is a wide line in my opinion. Saldana typically is dialed in, and then we've seen in the past his gas tank has really cost him. And Woodson, his win over Terrence McKinney has aged fairly well. Woodson is a fighter who had a lot of steam. Go watch that Julian Erosa fight. He was a minus 500 betting favorite and then failed to come through there and got taken advantage of in that bout late in the fight. Juicy J, by the way, we got to see Juicy J back in action sometime in the near future. One of my favorite fighters on the roster. So Woodson here should have some success at range. He's got to look out for those kicks of Saldana. Now, if Fight Ready, if they have made some improvements to Saldana's gas tank, I thought he lost that fight against Souza last time out, by the way. If he improves his gas tank, then he puts himself in a better situation here. But the problem is that isn't something that's easy to do, and you can't trust what you haven't seen. So the pick for me is going to be Sean Woodson. I see Saldana hanging in this fight early, though. I think he's going to make this very competitive. I think this is going to be a much more competitive bout than we've seen. And he also, if you watch the Lingo fight, seemed like he injured himself early in that fight. That could have been another win under his belt there. So give me Woodson to win, but this is much, I would line this more around minus 180-ish, 170 for Woodson. I don't like this minus 370 line. I think that's very wide. Now, we've got a fascinating spot here with Jared Gordon taking on Leo Santos. Leo Santos, this fight takes place at 155 pounds. You watch the weigh-ins. I posted a couple of pictures from yesterday. Leo Santos, 42 years of age, quick starter. Man, that Clay Guida fight, he almost had Guida out of there. That fight could have been stopped multiple times. Leo Santos, very quick starter. Somebody who, if he sees red, will empty his clip. Jared Gordon, who, as we know, is a survivor, is also a he's slow as molasses on the feet, doesn't necessarily pack big power. What he does, though, is grind, and he can grind you out. He can grind out victories. We saw against Joe Selecki and others. Getting up there in age, 33 also, has put in a lot of time down in Florida preparing for this matchup. Looks to be in great shape. I see a lot of people saying Leo Santos first round or bust. I agree with that sentiment, though I don't see this fight going the distance, and this fight could have been had, this line could have been had close to plus money. I believe it's still hanging close to that currently. So I see Leo Santos eventually falling off of a cliff here. By the way, something that needs to be mentioned as we work our way through this card is the altitude. The altitude is going to be a significant factor here. We're talking about north of 4,000 feet above sea level. They don't typically have these cards on a regular basis out here. Back, I remember a long time ago, in the early 90s, when they had some UFC cards in Colorado, people were gassing themselves out on a regular basis there. But Leo Santos should be finding the target early. And then eventually I see him, his cardio has always been a major issue, and that should be a major issue here against a cardio machine in Jared Gordon, who maybe it's not pretty, but he has broken opponents with his grind. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Jared Gordon to win. I think that he's going to win inside the distance, but it's a liability here. His chin's a liability. And we also saw him tap last time out against Grant Dawson. We haven't seen we haven't seen Gordon quit via submission in the past. So give me Jared Gordon to win, but I'd much rather play the fight doesn't go the distance line. Y'all ready to move up to the heavyweight division? Here we go. We got Marcin Tybura coming in as a plus 265 underdog. His line was up north of plus 300 for some time, taking on Alexander King Kong Romanov, who's sitting at a minus 355 betting favorite. Now, I posted some shots of Tybura getting TKO'd. He's been TKO'd 3 times within the UFC promotion, has fought and battled back from adversity in a number of spots. We saw even Greg Hardy. He needed that inhaler against Tybura, and Hardy was having some success early. Romanov, I've mentioned that he's the incredible shrinking man out there. It's interesting when at heavyweight, sometimes you carry that extra weight. That size can help you, especially if you're in top position and you're laying on top of your opponent who doesn't have a great get-up game. Tybura, he has a backbone. His foundation is in grappling. So Tybura here could potentially come out, surprise some folks the longer this fight goes. But I do like the favorite here, Alexander Romanov. I think that he is going to surprise some folks, come out like a man on fire as he's done in the past, and walk away with the victory. The question is, though, does he do this inside the distance? The Espino fight, we must talk about that. The Espino fight, the groin strike that really altered the trajectory of the fight and also the career. We haven't seen Espino in action, and when is he coming back? That is a good question. But back to this fight, Romanov, we've seen some suspect cardio, and the in-fight decision-making has come into play, but his brute strength, the forearm choke, I don't think he's going to land something like that on Tybura, but I do see ground and pound come into fruition. So if Romanov wins, I see him doing so inside the distance, and fight doesn't go the distance is sitting at minus 165. Heavyweights at altitude. Wouldn't surprise me to see Romanov end up gassing himself out and getting caught in a submission, but give me fight doesn't go the distance, and also Romanov to win inside the distance. But I don't currently have any action on this bout, full disclosure. So let's take a look at the comments section here. Let's see. Morning, Matthew. Looking forward to the card as well. Must be mentioned, the altitude could potentially be a factor here. We'll talk about another bout that the altitude may be a factor if it ends up going deep, is the Aldo-Dvalishvili against Jose Aldo bout. But let's talk quickly about this matchup. Perrin-Hunsucker, who had a failed run at heavyweight, now is coming down to light heavyweight, sitting at plus 485. Somebody who will throw caution to the wind, isn't afraid of getting knocked out, and will attempt to secure a victory against Tyson Pedro, who's sitting at minus 785. By the way, there was a line here. I was looking around. Fight doesn't go the distance, minus 1450. Wow. So they want you to lay 1,450 buckaroos to win $100 on fight doesn't go the distance. Wild stuff. Tyson Pedro coming off of he had a major layoff in the past after blowing his knee out and destroyed Ike Villanueva. I see him winning this fight as well, but as in the heavyweight division we've seen in the past, there is volatility out there. So could Hunsucker come out here and land something heavy on Pedro? Yes. There are no certainties in this game. Would I ever recommend minus 1,000 or anything close to that? No. Tyson Pedro, I am going to pick him to win here and do so inside the distance. The submission line could potentially be in play for Tyson Pedro, but I see him winning this fight inside the distance, and that is going to be the pick. Next up, we have the return of Lucy Pudilova, who's coming in as a minus 125 betting favorite, taking on Yanan Wu, who sitting at minus 105. This should be a low-level women's mixed martial arts striker's delight for 15 minutes. Do I think it's going to the scorecards? Yes. And I also see this fight ending up being a split decision at a high clip, fairly high clip. I would say maybe about a 25 to 30% of the time this ends up via split decision. So let's take a look at that at your books if it's available. Pudilova fought in the Octagon promotion and worked her way back here. It hasn't been pretty for Pudilova. She has let us down in the past, not impressed with her overall skill set, hasn't really put together any semblance of a ground game, and she could have used it to her advantage here if she had one, but she doesn't. So I believe this low-level women's mixed martial art will end with Lucy Pudilova winning via split decision, but I am going to be staying away from this one from a betting perspective. Now, one of the most exciting matchups on the card, one of the most exciting bookings of the year, Jose Aldo taking on Aldo-Dvalishvili at altitude in a larger octagon. Footwork should come into play here. Dvalishvili minus 140 with Ray Longo, Matt Serra, Aljamain Sterling in his back pocket, taking on Jose Aldo, who's sitting at plus 105. Man, this is a fantastic matchup. About a week and a half ago, maybe a few days ago, I mentioned one way of attacking this fight is to take Dvalishvili money line and then hedge with Aldo via KO/TKO. I think this is going to come down to two things. Dvalishvili being able to close distance, because if he does, he will rinse and repeat and grind and use his pressure to break down Jose Aldo to a situation where potentially we watched the Jan fight. I know that was in the later rounds, championship rounds, and we're not going to get those, but we're talking altitude. We're talking Merab Dvalishvili, who will put on a pace that really no other fighter at that weight class is going to grind the way Dvalishvili does, and he will not quit. You watched the Moraes fight. Moraes almost had him out of there. That fight could have been stopped multiple times. So Aldo, yes, he's a precision striker. He relies on bursts, and he's going to need to rely on a burst here to take Dvalishvili out of there, because Dvalishvili is an animal who will not go away. And I do not see Dvalishvili playing at range for any length of time here. If he is sitting at range, he's going to get picked apart and knocked out by Jose Aldo. Aldo will really need to thread a needle here to win a decision. Dvalishvili is going to rinse and repeat takedowns, and Aldo is going to have to work his way to try to find space to land these strikes. This isn't the Frankie Edgar matchup. Aldo could potentially land the knockout blow, though. So the best way of playing that, in my professional opinion, is Aldo by KO/TKO and also Dvalishvili money line. Now, the money line is still playable here. It's only moved 20, 30 cents total. The Aldo knockout is live, though. I will say that. So just take that into consideration and proceed with caution in that matchup. Now, this is what we all tuned in for. the Paulo Costa-Luke Rockhold fight at 185 pounds. Both of these fighters made weight. Paulo Costa minus 385 betting favorite. Originally could have been had in the minus 250s. Now this line has widened significantly. Luke Rockhold, both of these fighters made weight, so toss that narrative out the window. Costa, last time out, fought up at 205 pounds. Did he need to fight at that weight class? He said that he had some sort of bicep tendon issue that caused him issues training, so he wasn't able to train. But he looked pretty damn good winning the 5th round against Marvin Vettori. You saw him dig deep, and he lost that fight, but he won a couple of rounds there and performed admirably. Also, watch back, if you want to have a good time, watch back the Yoel Romero-Paulo Costa fight. 2 Goliaths going at it. Incredible matchup. The Israel Adesanya fight, Adesanya had Costa's number, took him out, and made him look silly. Do I think Rockhold can do that? Rockhold's going to have a major reach advantage here. Rockhold, 37 years of age, really looked like he could potentially be going off the deep end here as far as the pre-fight interviews, and I have concerns for Luke Rockhold here. Very talented fighter. The fight that got away from us was the rematch of Chris Weidman against Luke Rockhold. That fight was supposed to happen, never came to fruition. And Rockhold has since fallen off a cliff, run into some real adversity both inside of the octagon and outside the octagon. The knockout loss to Jan was a rough look, and also the Romero fight. That guy Rockhold killed himself trying to make that weight. And I remember listening to the post-weigh-in interviews. He could barely talk, got in there and then got knocked out. And it's been a long time since Rockhold has looked great. So I think this fight does end inside the distance. I like the under 2.5. Also, if you could have had Paulo Costa in the minus 250s, that would have been a good play. Now, Rockhold, he has the kicks. He has the length. He also has a solid top game if he's able to get the fight there. But Costa, I see Costa just unloading on Rockhold here and taking him out at some point in the first couple of rounds. Once Rockhold starts tasting the striking of Costa, that's when things should go downhill. So give me Paulo Costa to win. Let's say good morning to the crew. Good morning, Bo. Wow, Bo Jackson. I enjoyed your time with the Royals as well as the Raiders. Strong work. I remember that throw from the outfield. Marcus, you love Merab to win? Okay. We have somebody on the other side of the fight. If anyone's betting Luke Rockhold, just know he's most likely to be tripping on shrooms in that cage. Interesting. Morning, Donnie. Looking forward to the bouts today. Rockhold hasn't been the same since the Strikeforce days. Yeah, I watched back Luke Rockhold, very, very talented fighter. He got caught by Michael Bisping. That was another thing. That was a major red flag, seeing him eat that hook. And was that left hook Larry took him out? Oof. That was a game changer. The trajectory of his career changed dramatically. And I don't see Rockhold coming through here. So give me Paulo Costa to win. Main event of the evening, my friends, where we have Kamaru Usman taking on Leon Edwards for the second iteration of this fight. Not counting Leon Edwards out, plus 270 underdog. What it comes down to, though, are you willing to fade Kamaru Usman, who's sitting at minus 360? I think there are situations where passing's okay. This may potentially be one of them. There are a few ways to attack this fight, though. Do I think this fight is going to go the distance? I think that we might see some folks surprised here when Edwards comes out, dialed in southpaw fighter who his straight punches are legit. He is the better striker here in this matchup. Now, can he hold his game together for 5 rounds, 5 full rounds? We saw against Nate Diaz. Goodness, he was annihilating Nate Diaz. A lot of people, they have short memory. They watch that fight and they just remember Leon Edwards staggering across the octagon like a wounded deer. But Leon Edwards was tearing Nate Diaz up. Now, do we imagine what Kamaru Usman would do to Nate Diaz? Are you kidding me? So Usman, could he come out here and grind out a decision? I could see something like that happening. Is ego going to come into play, and is he going to end up trying to strike with Leon Edwards at range for a significant amount of time? I would not put it past him. This is somebody who chose to strike with Jorge Masvidal and others when the path to victory was the grappling. Usman, better overall wrestler here. I know Leon Edwards has had success. By the way, Leon Edwards, his best win, if you look back, watch back the tape, that would be against Rafael dos Anjos. Usman should win this fight, but am I going to go out and lay minus 300, minus 360 on Kamaru Usman? No, I don't think that's the way to go here against Leon Edwards, who is a formidable opponent, somebody who is probably going to have some success early, and he's been waiting for this shot for a long, long time. And he's been sitting on the sidelines for some time too. The Bilal Muhammad fight, we saw how dialed in he was for that fight. So if Edwards gets this done, I see him doing this inside the distance. Take a look at Leon Edwards via KO, but more likely outcome would be Kamaru Usman walking away with the victory. So Usman is going to be the pick. I see him grinding out Leon Edwards and eventually stopping Edwards late. But it's not going to surprise me to see Leon Edwards come out here and have some significant success. We have a comment here from Evan. Go get what's yours, my friend. Yes, I echo that sentiment. It should be a fantastic evening of fights, 12 fights to be exact. You got to pick your spots. And remember, when you're listening to others chat about breaking down fights, etc., make sure there's a legitimate third-party tracked record behind what they're saying. If they don't have the proven results, how can you trust what they're saying? There are a lot of folks who are masquerading as experts, but they don't have anything to fall back on. They don't have, some of them actually have losing records, believe it or not. So do your diligence. Go get what's yours. Continue hammering away one fight at a time, one opportunity at a time. Pick your spots. You don't have to go buck wild and bet on all 12 bouts here. You want to have your bankroll live to fight another day. So continue doing your thing, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a phenomenal day.